Well, hello and welcome to this week's Sunday Conversation here on Big Country Politics. I'm Manny Diaz. This week, our special guest is retired Major General of the United States Air Force, Mr. John Nichols, also the newly named Vice President military of the Military Affairs Committee for the Abilene Chamber of Commerce. There's a whole resume that we can put in there, which is very extensive, very impressive. But Major General, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Manny. It's great to be here, and it's really great to be back in Abilene after a few years.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about kind of my family's connection to Abilene and the Dyess Air Force Base and kind of what I'm doing. So I'll sit and answer your questions and anything you have for me. So it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Definitely. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that, plus a unique connection that you had to Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri that was part of the historic mission that flew over Iran and back. It was, what, a 32-hour mission?
It wound up being about a 37-hour mission.
37,
Yeah,
okay.
so that's a long time to be in any airplane.
Yes, it is.
I'll tell you that.
Yes, it is. Well, as you mentioned, this is your third tour in West Texas. You did 2 tours at Dyess Air Force Base and then one in my hometown of San Angelo at Goodfellow Air Force Base.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that you have these ties to West Texas for sure.
Yeah, it's great. First assignment after the Air Force Academy was to Goodfellow out in San Angelo. And that was our first exposure to Texas, and we became Texas residents that year. So it was great for my wife and I, and we really enjoyed that time out in San Angelo.
Where are you originally from?
Originally from Ohio, Northern
Okay.
Ohio. Yeah, my wife and I were same high school, kind of small town deal.
Wow.
And we've been together for 32 years, so she's stuck with me on this journey, and it's been pretty fantastic.
So was it a culture shock to you?
A bit up front, but we fell in love right away. I mean, day one, I remember saying between my wife and I that we were going to retire here someday, and that's exactly what we did. And we were fortunate to have that initial exposure out in San Angelo, and then had the opportunity to come back and fly B-1s at Dyess Air Force Base on 2 assignments. So that was between 2000 and 2010. So Abilene and Dyess were formative in our family's life. It really was, and we love it here, and we're really happy to be back.
Wow. So tell me about flying these B-1s. Imagine that's first, I mean, I think we have to say thank you for your service, and tell me about the experience of that and what that was like for you.
Yeah, the B-1 is an incredible warfighting machine, and the people that maintain it, that support it, that fly it, that take care of it, and all the things that go into running an air base, an Air Force base, all of that is incredible. We've got incredible people, but the war machine is good, but it's getting old, as you know. I was in a unique position. I got to pilot training late, so it took me about 8 years to get to pilot training. So I came into the B-1 late in my career. And just as fate would see it, I finished training there at Dyess and went to the 9th Bomb Squadron, to the operational unit there. And that's when 9/11 kicked off. So I was fortunate enough to finish my training and getting ready to go out the door to combat. And then there we were, fighting from Thumb Raid Air Base in Oman initially, bounced around to a few locations, but a lot of deployments in those years because the U.S. and really the world was responding to the attacks on 9/11. So in a way, it was fortuitous for me because I got a lot of flying and experience in a relatively short time.
Wow.
So that was 9th Bomb Squadron first, and then had an opportunity to come back to Dyess in the second run and command the 20th Bomb Squadron, which is the flying training unit. That's where we train the pilots and the CISOs to fly the B-1.
Wow.
Yeah.
How influential is Dyess Air Force Base when it comes to our United States Air Force? I mean, you hear so much of other Air Force bases that are talked about, but how influential is Dyess?
Dyess it's an incredible location. There's incredible support from the local community. The encroachment issues, in terms of airspace, noise that you sometimes see at other locations I'm not saying they're not a problem and they won't emerge, but they're dealt with more easily here at Dyess Air Force Base. And it's a great group of patriotic Americans that tend to support the military. And so it's great. And I think the fact that the B-21, the future, the B-2, and the B-1 replacement bomber, that's the new stealth bomber, is going to be bed down here at Dyess Air Force Base, as I think you're aware. That says a lot about this base, the community, and the fact that it was chosen to bed down the B-21.
Isn't that wild? I mean, national security is dependent on Dyess Air Force Base and what will be here. I mean, that's wild to think about.
No, it absolutely is, and it's an important mission. It's a mission with strategic impact. The bomber is, as we saw in these recent attacks on Iran, I mean, it carries a strategic message. You're able to force project long distances. You're able to hold any target at risk 24/7. When the president is looking for a discrete option or something that's going to have an impact on the world stage, again, that strike on those unique targets in Iran, we can talk about that later. They're gonna pick bombers. B-1s have done that type of work in the past. B-52s have. And just a little over 2 weeks ago, the B-2s out of Missouri did that same type of thing. So the bomber is incredibly important to force protection, our national security, our ability to deter adversaries, and assure our allies across the globe.
Yeah.
So Dyess, bright past and a bright future moving forward.
Definitely. One other piece that's on your resume is responsible for the day-to-day readiness of U.S. nuclear command and control and strategic deterrent forces. That's a lot right there. It sounds like a pretty important person, a pretty dangerous person.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. And what that duty title refers to is my last job. So I was 32 years active duty Air Force, retired last summer. So I've been retired for about a year and now back to Abilene as the Vice President of Military Affairs. Very honored to do that. But my last job was the Director of Global Operations at U.S. Strategic Command.
Okay.
And that is headquartered in Omaha, Nebraska at Offutt Air Force Base.
Okay.
So that duty title is affectionately known as the J3, and that's really, when you think U.S. Strategic Command, that's the nuclear command. Think nuclear bombers, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and ballistic missile submarines. So the three legs of the triad. And then the nuclear command and control, that kind of ties it all together. Not to get too geeky on it, but it's that full package, the three legs of the triad, and then that command and control. And that position was responsible for the day-to-day readiness, making sure those forces were available at a moment's notice, 24/7, 365, should the president decide to authorize either a global strike, so think conventional power projections similar to what happened a couple weeks ago, or, hopefully not. The weapons exist so that we never have to use them, but should we need to use them to execute a nuclear strike against a host of targets across the globe?
So you've gone 32 years in the United States Air Force, Director of Global Operations. You've had a number of things that you've tended to and overseen in your military career. And now you're the Vice President of the Military Affairs Committee with the Chamber of Commerce. Do you still feel battle ready? What's that like for you now to kind of make that transition?
Well, number one, I got to figure out what to wear every day. That's number one change. But yeah, of course, I mean, I feel ready to go. But it's just a different type of ready. I mean, it's just a different pace, and the work is important. But the thing that I love about this position, and again, this is day 2 for me, so it's great to be in here in the studio giving this interview. But day 2, and what I look forward to is bringing my experience and knowledge to help Dyess mission, current mission and future mission. And there is a lot of challenges with future mission. B-21, as we mentioned, is going to be bed down here. At the same time, we have to concurrently run B-1 operations, C-130 operations, and that's not going to be able to just go away. That will have to be. So you're going to be building up. There's going to be construction. There's going to be a lot of impacts to current mission, but you're going to have to run the bed down and the mission that the wings are tasked with out there concurrently. And that brings a lot of challenges. So I hope to help in that regard. And anytime that I can advocate for Dyess airmen and their families, that's kind of as I see my role as a vice president.
Well, tell me about that. Exactly for someone who's just kind of catching this for the
Yeah.
first time and they hear of your title now with the Abilene Chamber of Commerce, Vice President of the Military Affairs Committee. What exactly does that entail? And certainly, how can you help bridge that, make a bridge from Dyess Air Force Base to the city of Abilene?
Well, I mean, I think probably a pretty good example, and others worked really hard at this, so I share none of the credit of this, but when you look at the gates, the in and outs to Dyess Air Force Base, Congressman Arrington just worked
Indeed,
a
yes.
$4 million, I think it's just north of $4 million, kind of think of it as money that's going to go into an Air Force pot to bring those two gates, the main gate and the commercial gate, up to required force protection standards. Because, I mean, you think about where we are today, there's bad folks that may want to do bad things, and we need to be able to protect our installations, to protect our assets, and ultimately protect our airmen and their families that work and live, in this case, at Dyess Air Force Base. So this $4.1 million deal is huge. And, hats off to the congressman's efforts to push this across the line. And I'm confident that, those funds will be managed appropriately to bring to bear to fix those gates. And force protection's big. I mean, it's as big as it's ever been. We can't have vulnerabilities, and our adversaries are constantly, poking us and checking out where those vulnerabilities are. So this will go a long way to mitigating those vulnerabilities.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your connection to Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri.
Yeah.
And that base deployed had a very unique mission, a historic mission, 37-hour mission
Yeah.
to and back from the Middle East. Tell me about your connection.
So in a couple assignments ago, I was the commander of the 509th Bomb Wing. That's the active duty B-2 wing. There's also a guard wing there that has a very important association with the 509th. As you know, I think you're aware that that's kind of that's the nest, that's the mothership for the B-2 mission, everything out of Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. So incredible mission with an incredible stealth bomber and an incredible weapon. And the president said, go strike very important targets in Iran. And the mission was pulled off flawlessly. We need to give credit to the Navy. The Navy was shooting Tomahawk land attack missiles from hundreds of miles away to strike targets also in and around, there. There was multiple support assets, intel, surveillance, reconnaissance, support assets, tons of stuff coming together, layered effects to make sure that things went really well, fighter escort, etc. So really big mission, very important mission, and a mission that I would note that was, successful in large measure because of the operational security measures that were put in place to kind of conceal that movement, right? I mean, it's a big plane taking off from a singular location, and the Air Force and U.S. Central Command and all the planners did an incredible job of making sure that those planes and everything that was supporting those bombers got there safely, were able to get over the target, drop their weapon. The weapons worked as advertised.
Bunker bombers, is that what they're called?
Yeah, this, not to get too geeky, but this is the massive ordnance penetrator known as a GBU 57, so Guided Bomb Unit 57. That's just jargon. It's just how they refer to the bomb, but think 30,000-pound weapon. The B-2 carries two of them. They've got two bomb bays, one in each bomb bay. It fills the entire bomb bay up. think high altitude release, and think very, very precise. I think the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff or maybe the Secretary of Defense were talking about it's essentially hitting a refrigerator door from very, very high
No
altitude.
way.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So 50,000 feet, hitting a refrigerator door with a 30,000-pound bomb that goes in and is built to dig deep. And as you know, in this particular attack, we sequence several on top of one another to get to destroy the space below Fort O, where a lot of bad stuff Iran was doing with enrichment, centrifuges, etc. So they put that under that mountain to protect it. And these weapons, this weapon system, and these operators that made it happen destroyed it.
Wow.
Pretty incredible.
That's
mission.
heavy stuff. Yeah.
It's very big things. And just so you know, this has been in the works for a long time. This is publicly disclosed over the last couple of weeks. But this mission and bringing this weapon to be this massive ordnance penetrator, this MOP weapon, that has been in work for years, a decade and a half kind of timeline. So
Is this something that our country only possesses, or is this something that other countries?
That's right. I mean, other countries have weapons of varying degrees, both conventional and nuclear, that can get, we call it hard and deeply buried targets, HDBT. And those hard and deeply buried targets are really hard to kill. But I will tell you that the United States of America leads the world in the ability to destroy those hard and deeply buried targets. This weapon was built for this reason, and they continued over the years to modify it, to adjust fusing. I just read recently that the Air Force is going to continue to kind of tweak this weapon to make sure it's available for the president should we decide to use it. And remember, it's not just Iran that has these type of targets. North Korea has targets that would be serviced by this type of weapon. Other countries have, and our adversaries are watching. You can rest assured that the leaders, the dictators of these other countries sat up real straight in their chair when they saw the United States of America pull this off.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
I bet. Well, there was a lot, that was talked about, from the political spectrum, that whether or not President Trump should have acted on this mission. Others said, yes, we should have. I mean, there was a whole Tucker Carlson, Senator Ted Cruz discussion about that got very lengthy and very hot.
Sure.
So, from as someone from your stance in the military, how do y'all distinguish that, or is it just kind of like, what, this is our order, this is what we have?
Yeah, it's pretty easy, really, as a military member. The job of the military is to ensure that we provide the President of the United States and our National Command Authority options. That's it. We are not policy makers. We are not policy deciders, right? We present options, the pros and the cons of each option, and then it's for our elected leaders to decide, in this case, the executive, the President of the United States, to decide when to execute and what to execute and how many and that type of thing. Now, he listens to a whole bunch of people, but the military provide options if you're in uniform. In terms of the first part of your question, I would just look at, a little over 2 weeks. I'm not saying peace is broken out in the Middle East, but it feels like we as a country and the allies in the region, from Israel to our Middle Eastern allies, are in a better position now with a Iran whose nuclear capability, let's not get technical and argue how much it's been set back, but I think we can all agree that it has been set back significantly. I think that's a good thing for the world, and I think that's a good thing for America, and I think that supports our national interests. As far as I can tell, war hasn't broken out. We're looking at interesting talks in Gaza. Things are feel like they're moving in a good direction in the Middle East,
Yeah.
and I think that these strikes had something to do with that,
With the
in
arrival,
my humble opinion.
absolutely.
Others will disagree
Absolutely.
with that. Yeah.
Well, with the arrival of this new aircraft
Yeah.
to Dyess and here in Abilene, could it be very well possible that Abilene is involved in something like this, similar in the future, if there is a conflict, if something does arise?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, this B-21, I tell folks that are younger that have an opportunity to work on this, to operate it, and to fly this incredible machine that's being built. Stick around and fly the best piece of machinery that's ever flown. It's going to be incredible. It is going to be incredible, and it is going to have a huge impact at Dyess in this community. It's going to be nuclear capable. That's a big difference than where we are at currently at Dyess Air Force Base with no nuclear weapons. So it's a change. It's a mindset change. It's a procedural change. Things are a lot tighter
Security
and a lot
intensifies
more
this.
security, and that speaks to the importance of, the 4.1 million for both of the gates out there. So, very exciting things for Dyess Air Force Base. But absolutely, to answer your question, Dyess could get the call, and in addition to that strike portion, the airlift wing, the 317th, continues to do incredible things at a very rapid rate. So I look forward in the coming days to get out there and get that update from the 317th leadership team, and then visit the 7th Bomb Wing and reconnect with a lot of folks that I know from my past. So I'm excited. It's exciting times for Dyess.
You speak of security intensifying around the base. For the average citizen, the layperson, perhaps someone that lives around the base, I mean, what would be your message to them, knowing that there are nuclear capabilities here, the way our world is moving, there are bad guys out there, and that this is very much alive and well here in Abilene?
Yeah, what I would say is, and I would tell this to anyone. I tell this to our kids. So we've got 3 kids. One of them is in Germany, and we've seen some of these awful attacks. Bad folks will take a vehicle and will drive into a market and hit a bunch of people and cause a lot of death and injury. My message to anyone and to our own children is keep your head on a swivel. Understand where you're at. Just because you're at a Christmas market in Germany doesn't mean you're safe, right? You got to keep your eyes on a swivel. You kind of have a sense of what's going on. And if you hear something, see something, smell something that doesn't seem right, then take aggressive action. Either correct it yourself if able, or just get out of there and help warn others to get out of there. So that's the big thing. I mean, it's all contextual and circumstantial, right? It depends on where you're at, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and all that. But keep your head on a swivel, report suspicious activity, and just try to help others if caught in the situation, and survive yourself and survive others.
And to just know we have the best capability, we have the best capable people in the world here protecting us.
There are some some really sharp shooters
I bet there
that are out there protecting this stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Most definitely. Well, Major General, thank you so much for your time today. I knew you also, before we land the plane here, I know you also wanted to give a special shout out to the victims.
Yeah, we were talking at the very beginning. I mean, what a time for the state of Texas with this massive flooding. Thoughts and prayers go out to all the families and the victims, and I know as time goes on, the efforts kind of switch to to recovery, but hopefully that there's still some rescues to be had. But just thinking about all the communities that were impacted, and there's so many, and the incredible thing about Texas is people really come together. I've always thought that about this great state, and they'll come together here. It's happened before. It'll probably happen again. Hopefully we can improve. But when things rise 35 feet in 45 minutes, boy, and you've got a cabin full of folks asleep, that is a tough problem. Just again, thoughts and prayers go out to so many of the families that were impacted. So I just wanted to take that time to,
Yes, sir.
to recognize that.
Well, our audience, we certainly appreciate those kind words. Or for retired Major General John Nichols, this has been another Sunday conversation here on Big Country Politics. We'll see you next time. God bless.